Hi, it's Mark Nugent here and welcome to this video where I'm going to give you a brief tour of Metatrader4, your trading platform. Now, as you can see here, we are on my VPS, my virtual private server. Let's just have a look at the desktop by clicking down here. You can see this rather drab blue color is the desktop of the Windows VPS machine. This one happens to sit in London. There's no wallpaper here, no fripperies like that. It's just a very basic Windows Server machine. And you will have some shortcuts here on the top left hand side which will lead to your various MetaTrader instances. I have quite a few, so I've tidied them all away into a folder down here, and you can see I've got quite a few open at the bottom. But let's just move one up so that we can have a wee look at what's going on. So let's begin a brief tour of Metatrader4. Now, in the top left here we have what are called toolbars, and basically there's 4 toolbars. This one here is called the standard toolbar. You can access these incidentally by clicking on View Toolbars, and as you can see with the check marks we have them all showing, but you can take them away if you want. The first toolbar is the standard toolbar, and that's this one here. I don't use this at all. Largely most of these buttons just allow you to toggle on and off the various windows. That's a window, that's a window, that's a window, and that's a window. I don't really use that at all. I just have these windows open most of the time. The second toolbar here is called the Charts toolbar, which allows us to control what's happening down here in the currency chart. So we can do things like we can change from the candle view, this is the so-called candle view, to a different kind of view. This is a bar that has an open, a high, a close, and a low positioned on the bar. I prefer candles. Candles give exactly the same information, but I find them just slightly more visual. Then we can increase the axes, and we can increase the thickness of the candles, or we can make them smaller, which actually allows us to see further back into the past when we make them smaller. You can also do this by using the plus and minus signs on the numeric keyboard you have in front of you, presumably. And there's various other things here. As a default, this toggle switch is on, which simply means that if we move the chart by clicking on it and dragging it so we look back into the past, when we let go it will bounce back. Has it done it? Yeah, oh yes, it has done it. Did it straight away. Yeah, it's bounced back. And by bounce back, what I mean is the most recent candle, the current candle, is on the far right, so we see the most recent price history on the chart. Okay, the third part of the toolbar is the so-called line studies here. Again, the vast majority of this I don't use, but sometimes I may put a vertical line on the chart, by instance clicking on the vertical line, clicking on the chart, moving it to the place I want, and then letting go. And this is good if you want to look back through the chart for various features. You can just put a vertical line there so that it makes it easier to remember what you're looking for. You can put another one in, etc, etc, and horizontal lines as well if you want to look at various resistance points or support points. And you can get rid of all these lines just by double clicking on them until you see a little square at the top and bottom, and then clicking on delete on your keyboard gets rid of all these lines. The fourth part of the toolbars is so-called periodicity. So this is 1 minute, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, 4 hours, 1 day, 1 week, 1 month. And you can click on these, and what it will do is it changes the period of time that is actually represented by each candle. So currently we have each candle representing a day, which you can see here takes us back to April of last year, 2013. You could make it a month, and you'll see that it goes back to July 97. And if we actually make each candle thinner, we might even be able to see even further back. Let's try that. No, that's as far. Oh, it does. Yes, it does. Goes back to March 1990. Let's make them even thinner. That's probably it. That's probably it. Yeah, March 1990. Okay, so there's, getting on for 24 years of data there. Let's make it a bit more sensible again. Let's put it back to day. None of this has any bearing on the trading, incidentally. It's really just if you want to look at the charts at all, it's about getting them in a way that you can actually see what's happening. Okay, let's look at all the charts. Up here we have Market Watch. The best way to access charts is again View, and down here we can see Market Watch, Data Window, Navigator, Terminal, Strategy Tester. These are various windows that we can have. Most of them are open. Market Watch is open. It's actually underneath this this particular part of the menu. Below Market Watch we have the Data Window, which is halfway down on the left hand side. Navigator is... where is Navigator? I think that's... where's Navigator? Let's click on it. Oh yes, Navigator is that panel there which accesses our account and accesses our expert advisors, of which there are many, but the one that you've bought into is here, FTF1. And what else do we have in terms of windows? We have Terminal, which is down at the bottom, which gives us information about our orders that have been placed and our orders that have closed. Strategy Tester will be the subject of a different video later and is not normally shown on this default screen. And full screen, incidentally, just allows us to make the chart full screen, and we can just press F11 to make that happen. And there we are, press F11 again, so it's a toggle switch. Okay, so let's go through them. Market Watch up here. I'm going to get rid of... tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put Data Window where I normally like it, which is there. You can move all these windows around, as you can see. Just put them where you want them, and Windows will sort it out. I like that. Also, each of the windows, if you hover your cursor over the boundary until you see that little black line and then click on it, you can make the window wider or smaller. There's wider, and there is smaller. So it's just like it's a typical Windows machine. You know, it just does what you expect it to do. Make that a bit smaller. Make that a bit smaller. So again, top left we have Market Watch. This is where all our currencies are. Now I'm going to right click and then say Show All, and this is everything you can trade on this platform. I think what's here is defined by the broker, obviously, because the broker that supplied us with this instance of Metatrader4 clearly will have some kind of limitation on the trades they will take. The vast majority of advice, if not all of the advice you'll ever receive from us, will be based on a small number of so-called major currencies that have small spreads. Spread is the difference between the offer and the bid and the ask price, which is how the broker actually makes their money. Now you can see on this particular chart down here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. These are the 12 pairs that currently I'm looking at. And if I right click again up here in Market Watch and click on Hide All, it will hide all of them except the ones we have open. So there we have it. It reduces it down to the 12. If I wanted to open a second, let's say Australian dollar US dollar chart, I would just right click on that and click on Chart Window. And we see this horrible default setting for the chart. I don't particularly like that. It doesn't really matter. It makes no difference to the trading, but I like to change that, and I'll right click on it. I'll click on Properties, and I will take away the grid because I think it's horrible, and that's okay. And then I will change the line type to candles. Now that actually hasn't made any noticeable difference because the candles are very, very narrow, so I'm going to make them a bit fatter. But before I do that, I'm going to put it onto the 1 day time horizon, and then I'm going to make the candles a bit fatter. And I'm going to do it by pressing on the plus key on my numeric keypad once, twice, and there we have it. That looks a bit more interesting to me, a bit more palatable. Again, if I then apply the robot to that, I can do that by double clicking on FTF1, and I get my settings, and I can put my settings in accordance with the current best strategy, which is on the website, or I can actually develop my own strategies, and I can try them out on a demo account, and there'll be other videos on this site, if not now, soon, which will show you how you can go about safely managing your money with experimental strategies. So I'm not going to fill that in just now. I'm just going to click cancel. and then you can see that there's some information here on a trade. That's not any trades we've placed on this chart. Those trades come from the Australian dollar US chart that's already up, which is there. So you can see it. There's the robot. Some information there on the robot, FTF1 version 1.0, and there's some information on the settings that we actually have put in. So if you see lines on a chart, let's go back to this chart we've just opened. If you see lines on the chart but you don't see any information in the top left, that means the robot is actually managing this trade through a different chart. Same pair, but a different chart. So I'm going to go back to that chart I just opened, and a bit of housekeeping, I will right click on that and close that chart. Okay, so the next window down here is Navigator. The only thing I'm really interested in here in Navigator is that's where I can set up a new demo account. I can do it this way, or I can use one of the links on the desktop that we've given you to do that. You should probably do that actually on reflection. Use the link on the desktop. That's a better way to do it, because it sets the demo up through your FX Pro account, which gives you another way to actually manage that account. Once you've done that, you've done it, and that's, as I say, under Expert Advisors here. That's where your robot sits. So initially, when you set up your charts, either current best strategy or anything you want to do yourself, open up the chart and then double click on FTF and then apply the settings, click on OK, and you're away. One of the things to mention up here in the toolbars is Expert Advisors. That must always be clicked on, and it will show a green there. If we click that off, it's red, which means none of the advisors are now working. So none of the trades are being, Expert Advisor is the same as a robot. It's the piece of software that you've bought into. If we click that so that it's red, the Expert Advisors are not managing the trades, so they won't manage the existing trades and they won't establish any new trades. And you can also see by doing that, we have a little X there in the top right hand side of the chart. I'll quickly put that back to green. Don't do that during the week. Any of these changes you want to be making at the weekend. You don't want to make any significant changes to the robot or to your charts during the trading week. This is a very interesting little window. It's called Data Window. This is not in your chart by default. You'll have a chart that looks more like that. We get Data Window back by going View, Data Window, and this will give us various information on each of the candles, and as we move our cursor across the candles, we can do it along the top of the screen. It doesn't have to be physically above the candles. You will see that it will give us various information for each candle. So let's zoom in by pressing plus on our keyboard and we'll look at one in detail. Okay, let's look at these candles here. These are white candles. White candles mean the currency is decreasing in value. So in this case we have the Australian dollar versus the US dollar. So this means the Australian dollar is weakening against the US dollar. Let's look at this candle here, and we see over here, this is this, well, I need to put my cursor on it. It's the 20th of November. It's a daily chart. The open price of 94311 is there, the top of the body. That's where it opens. So at the beginning of that 1 day period, that was the open price. The high price, which was the highest it ever got during the period, is 94471 and is the top of the top wick. The low price is the bottom of the bottom wick, which is 0.93152, and the close price, which was the final price during the 1 day period that this candle represents, was 0.93331. Now conversely, for a black candle which is going up, the open price is there, the bottom of the body this time, not the top. The low price is the bottom of the bottom wick. The high price is the top of the top wick, and the close price, the last price in the period, is the top of the body. And there you can see that sometimes as we hover over, we actually get the information closer to us, so we don't have to look at the data window itself. It doesn't always happen. I'm not quite sure why not. Okay, these lines here are the lines that represent that there's a trade ongoing on this pair, and we'll come back to those in a minute once we look at the bottom window, which is the so-called terminal window. Now there's multiple tabs here on the terminal window, and currently we have trade placed, and this shows us what's happening with existing trades. So you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trades taking part. So here we have the order number, we have the time at which the order was placed, we have the type of trade, a buy or a sell, we have the size of the trade, which is measured in something called a lot size, a lot being 100,000 currency units. I'll explain more about that in the video about where the current best strategy comes from. This is the symbol, so this is the currency pair we're trading, the price at which the trade was entered, the stop loss, which allows us to minimize our loss on any particular trade. This particular strategy doesn't have a take profit, which is where we exit for a profit. We approach that via another mechanism, which I will show you in the video about how the robot works, called a trailing stop loss. But if we had a take profit, you would see it there. This is the current price. And this is any commission we have to pay. We won't see any commissions with the FX Pro broker. The swap, sometimes with some currencies, usually when we are short selling, you actually have to borrow the currency, particularly overnight, and there's a small swap charge. And this is the current profit. This is not a crystallized profit yet, because these trades are open. These trades have not closed, so this is a notional profit or loss at this time. As you can see, they're all actually above water, they're all profitable. And there's another column which, if we right click and then click on comments, you'll get a new column, and it's the magic number. Every currency pair has a magic number. This just allows the robot to manage each pair individually and properly, and that is written in this final column called comments. There are some other columns you can get rid of, like commission. We'll get rid of that because we never pay commission, so we'll uncheck that, and the commission column will disappear. So this is, as I say, this is trades that are currently ongoing. It's interesting to look at what the profit column is. Sometimes that will be negative, it will be a loss, but I've got to stress to you, in this tab called trade, this is notional. This profit or loss has not actually occurred yet. It's only when the trade closes, either through hitting the stop loss, the take profit, or the trailing stop loss, that the trade is closed and the profit or the loss is actually realized, becomes real. And once that happens, a trade is actually closed and it realizes a profit or a loss. It's then logged in the second tab down here called Account History. This is where we record our trades so far. As you can see, this account is actually losing money, but it's not designed to be profitable. It's designed to gather data on all the pairs we're looking at. So it's the data we're looking for here, it's not actual profitability. So again, we get the order number, we get the time at which the trade was placed, and all the information we've seen before, but then we get some new information, which is the time the trade was closed at, the price at which it was closed at, the final swap we have to pay, if any, but we also sometimes accrue money through the swap, particularly if it's a buy trade. Somebody else on the other side that's needing to sell this currency will be paying a swap, and they'll be paying some of that to us, and there's the profit here. Sometimes it's a loss, and of course this is now real. This has been crystallized, these trades have been closed, and this is real money, and it actually reflects in your account size. And then again, finally, we have the final comments column, which gives the magic number, and it gives the reason for the closing of the trade. In brackets here, we can see SL for stop loss. Now, in a strategy that has a take profit, if we hit the stop loss, it's definitely a loss because it's gone against us. But in a strategy where we manage the profit with a trailing stop loss, then hitting the trailing stop loss will always give us a profit, because the trailing stop loss doesn't actually start until we're at break even. But more about that in the video around how the robot works. There are other tabs down here in terminal window, news, alerts, mailbox. I don't look at these in case I have to, in case something's gone a bit awry and I need to find out what's happened. Usually a connection problem. That doesn't happen very often, but the main boxes here are trade, which is current trades with notional profit or loss, and then we have account history, which is closed trades with real profit or loss. Okay, I think that's just about all. Just a few things. When you want to close your VPS, your entire VPS, including all of your Metatrader 4 platforms, you may have more than one, use this X here on this blue bar in the middle. That will close your VPS and you will see this message: disconnect your remote desktop services, blah blah blah. We don't want to do that just now. Up here in the top right, the cross in the very far corner appertains to the Metatrader 4 platform. So I can knock this down just like any window. I can keep it open as in it's still connected to the broker, but I can minimize it by clicking on that, and it's actually still there. That's a different one. And again, by clicking on that, it comes back up. If I accidentally close this instance of Metatrader 4, what will happen is that none of my trades will be managed. I'll have open trades with the broker, but they won't be managed. So if I delete Metatrader 4 by right clicking down here and clicking on close, or if I click on this X in the corner, I must go back to my desktop, go to my shortcut and open it up again, and everything will be fine. The robot will reinitialize and it will take over the trades. This minimize and close button here that sits just below the ones to do with Metatrader 4 are specific to the chart we're looking at. Now if we minimize it, that's okay. We can go back to the button here, right click and then say maximize, and it comes back. But if we accidentally close the chart by clicking on that X there, then any trades that are open on that chart will not be managed by the robot, and the robot will not open any new trades on that chart. So what we do if we do that by accident is move over here to File, Open Deleted, and there you'll see a list of the most recently deleted charts, and we can click on them and then re-establish the robot by clicking on FTF1 and re-establishing the settings. And because we've been using magic numbers, a different magic number for each pair, the robot will take up the management of any open trades and will continue to execute its strategy by placing new trades when appropriate. So in summary, in a nutshell, that's Metatrader 4. I think of it as a bit like Microsoft Word. There's a bazillion things you can do with it. I know about 10% of it, and it's enough for me, frankly. I don't know what a lot of it does, but I know enough to trade effectively. So we have the toolbars up here, we have the windows, and we have the chart windows here. The only thing that can really go wrong, as I say, is you accidentally shut your instance of Metatrader 4. Just go back to your desktop and reopen it. Or you can shut down one of your charts by mistake, in which case you can reopen it through the File, Open Deleted column. And if the robot's not there, you can re-establish it by double clicking on it and reapplying your settings. It's a piece of software, you can't break it. You can shut all these windows. You can do what you like, and you just bring them all back by going View, Market Watch. Let's have that back. Let's have Data Window. Let's have Navigator. Let's have Terminal, and then you can move them around. We can put that over there if we want. We can bring back all our currency pairs by showing all. We can make that we can bring this window down here. Often when you get lots of trades and you want to look at them all, you can hover over, right click and then drag, and you can make that window bigger. So don't be frightened of it. There's a lot of information here, but it's just a tool, it's just a piece of software, and it will do what you want it to do. It will hide all, and it will hide all bar the pairs that we're actually looking at. Okay, thank you very much for your time. I hope that was interesting and informative, and I look forward to talking to you in the next video.